Hey everyone, Katie and Sergeant Steele here, and today we're doing another unit review, and this time it's the Field Ordnance Battery, but with the Heavy Lascannon loadout. So let's dive into it. So, as always, starting with the stats, for a Field Ordnance Battery, we have 4-inch movement, toughness 5, 4-up save, 6 wounds per model, so 12 wounds for the whole unit, leadership 7, 2 objective control. So 4 total for the whole unit if they're sitting on the same objective. So that's not bad. These are beautiful models as well. I really love this kit. It's absolutely amazing. So I'm always happy to put it down and have 12 wounds of artillery on the battlefield. So let's dive into its weapons. We have, of course, we're talking about Heavy Lascannon this time. So it is heavy, 48-inch range, not bad. 2 attacks each. So that means with a unit of 2 of them, you get 4 attacks, right? It's ballistic skill 5, so we're really going to need that heavy. It's strength 14, AP -3, D6 plus 1 damage. Now, they do also have a las gun and a las pistol each, so you have in a whole unit of 2 of these bases, you have 2 las guns, 2 las pistols that you can also fire. And you also have close combat weapons that you can use on these models as well. But if you ever get into melee, you're probably toast anyways. Now, their ability. So what makes them special is rearm, reload, fire. And while they're under the effect of an order and the unit has remained stationary, they get sustained hits 1 on their weapon. Okay, so let's dive into all this together. With its stats, this is a very resilient unit for what it does. I mean, toughness 5, 6 wounds per base is no joke, especially with a 4-up save. You're probably going to have these in cover, right? You're going to put something in front of them, get them a little +1 to their save. So then they're 3-up armor save very easily, and that's without any orders. Because you could issue them, take cover, to modify that save characteristic to a 3-up. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind at T5, even a heavy bolter is only going to win them on a 4. So that really does kind of help out to keep this unit in the game if they are targeted. Now their ability though, rearm, reload, fire, doesn't work as well with the Heavy Lascannons. You're going to get 4 shots. So every time you shoot, you're likely to not get sustained hits 1, right? Because your chances of rolling a 6 out of those 4 dice rolls is not that high. So it's unlikely you'll get the sustained hits 1 every time you shoot the Lascannons. It'll be like every other time at best, just to get that extra hit. When you do shoot, because of ballistic skill 5, if you've sat still, you'll get +1 because of heavy, and that means you'll be hitting on 4s. That's pretty good, but that means you only hit twice on average when shooting both of these at the same target. Now, at strength 14, that means you're probably wounding with both of these. Maybe one, but probably both. You're wounding pretty much everything on a 3 at strength 14, which is insanely strong. The AP -3 is also sufficient. Usually with anything that you're targeting that you need more AP than AP -3, they probably have an invuln save anyways. So it's really not going to do you a whole lot of good to have that extra AP. So AP -3 is fine. The D6 plus 1 damage, not bad. Minimum 2 up to 7. You average 4.5 damage per wound. And that's not terrible. I mean, 4.5 damage each means you're going to deal about 9 damage per round if you do wound with both shots and your opponent fails their saves. If they don't fail their saves, that means you're averaging just 4 damage. Up to 5, 4.5, so 4 or 5 damage per round. So how would I run these then? What would I do with them? I mean, they can be pretty effective. They're really strong. Their strength and AP is fantastic. So you can really reach out, touch somebody, and deal damage. They don't have any indirect or anything, so you're going to need line of sight. So how I would run these is, I would put them in cover, in terrain somehow, but they can still have a line of sight. So maybe behind some scattered terrain or barricades, right? Perhaps if you want to invest the points in Aegis defense line, This is the perfect unit for an Aegis defense line because then it also gains an invulnerable save because it's behind the Aegis defense line. So that's kind of a great way of doing it and being able to kind of get it into a good position without you having to rely on hopefully good terrain as well. If you're playing a tournament style like WTC terrain and you can't see through the ground floor, you're boned pretty much without taking Aegis defense line because you'll almost never get this into a position where you can shoot well out of the buildings and actually hit anything. If you're playing like I do and you play rules as written and that you can actually see through the windows and everything else, if you're inside the terrain, then you could pop this into a set of ruins, poke their head out a little bit, and pop some targets, right? And really start inflicting some major damage there. So I would definitely do that, and I would also have them towards the back, but with a good lane of fire towards the middle of the table. So say, for example, if you're playing somebody with tanks or perhaps war dogs, you could then, as they move to the center objective, get those good lanes of fire and start plinking away damage off of those targets. And that's really what you want to do. You want to give them dedicated lanes where you're going to punish the enemy for popping out into those corridors. You're not going to move this unit either. You want to be able to get the benefit of heavy. You only have 4-inch movement without move. And what a waste of an order if you did that. But you totally could, and then give them 7-inch move, which is not bad. But you'll just want to mostly just have them sit still. So find good cover, get them behind the line, get them screened out decently well, and then have them start shooting away at those key targets. With that, this unit is mostly just a killing unit. I mean, OC4, you could hold an objective. The bases are pretty big, so you could actually screen decently with this unit if you do get charged. The base is so deep, right? This big, huge base here. I magnetized mine, as you could tell there. It'll be hard for your opponent, if they do kill them, to actually consolidate past them on an objective, depending on how you set up and how your opponent gets in on that charge. So this unit could block an objective, especially if your objective is 3 inches behind them. And as deep as this base is, you're going to prevent your opponent from being able to get on it, which is kind of a really cool thing to be able to do, perhaps. But once again, context matters, but that is a potential thing you could do with them. But I would keep them screened themselves using other infantry or vehicles or something resilient in front of them. And I would also make sure you're screened out behind them as well, so you don't get countercharged or deep struck behind and then absolutely obliterated. That's the last thing you want to see happen. But overall, I mean, that's how I would just run this unit. I mean, an Aegis defense line would be the most ideal thing. It's overcosted, but it would be effective with a unit like this. Especially if you're bringing the Malleus rocket launcher variant as well, and you're shoving these back in behind it and just firing out. And then maybe you even have a line of infantry in front of this unit to help screen, in addition to the Aegis defense line. So many layers for your opponent to chew through to be able to get to a unit like this. And it's really just how I would kind of run it. I wouldn't do much else with this unit. Maybe hold your backfill objective, screen a little bit, but you really just want this unit to be screened for the most part. And then to just plink away units down certain lanes of fire and just hold that position. This could really complement well with other units, the way we play guard. We're really good at shooting. We're really good at dealing damage and shooting. But we don't always kill a unit with a single unit. We don't have that kind of strength in shooting, right? And I'm talking especially like vehicles and monsters. Sometimes a Rogaldoran can do it. Certainly even Russes can do it. But like your Sentinel squads aren't like taking down war dogs every turn necessarily. I mean, they might, but maybe not. And then this unit can help kind of back them up on those lanes of fire to help make sure you take those units down and get those guaranteed kills by taking out, 8-9 wounds per turn if you're wounding and your opponents are failing their saves. Now, that's on average. You could get super lucky, and, I mean, you could technically, with sustain, it's 1. Say you roll 2 6s, and then your other 2 dice are also hits, so then you get 6 hits. and then you wound, say, 5 of those times, and your opponent fails or saves, I mean, you could do an insane amount of damage with this unit, right? Rolling that d6 plus 1, even just averaging, that's, 22.5 wounds with like 5 hits, right? So just like as a hypothetical. So it's possible, but I would go with your averages. I would say you're probably only doing 4.5, 5 wounds per base with this unit every shooting phase. So around 9 damage total to a single unit that you're shooting at. So it's really just more complementary than anything, but it's effective at doing that. That's it. This one's really simple. I don't have a whole lot of other pointers with this one. I mean, if you want to get that sustained hits one, I guess, with the Heavy Lascannon, if you want to do it cheap, slap a commissar back there. Friendly commissar just hanging out with the artillery and telling them to have a good time, right? Give them +1 OC or +1 weapon skill, perhaps, but probably +1 OC, and then it gets sustained hits one. You could totally do that. Or you just got a cheap officer with a command squad and a master vox, and you can just toss orders 24 inches back to this unit or 24 inches forward, depending on how you've deployed and where you've placed it. So that's kind of just something to keep in mind, keep those cheap orders there to, if you do want to buff it and get that sustained hits one. But the one thing you could really do with a regular officer is give them take cover or take aim, so they can hit hopefully on 3s rather than 4s if they're sitting still. But take cover would be good if you're trying to hold something with them and keep them alive, because you're going to have them exposed to shoot. So that's it. That's this whole unit. Yeah, I like it. Aesthetically, it's really, really cool, and I do plan to use them soon in a battle report, and I'm very, very excited to be able to do that. So, hope you've enjoyed this unit review. If you have, please like and subscribe. I know only about half of you do. So, if you would do that, I'd really appreciate it as you support the content I'm making. It just means a lot. I don't put anything behind a paywall. This is how you can show your support for me. Or there's links down below in the video description for a bunch of affiliate links for cool products that I recommend. And most of those actually give a little bit of bump back to me and kind of help me out a little bit. So I really appreciate that as well. Including a new merch store for my own merch that I just recently launched and need to add more stuff to it, but it is down in the links below. There is something I missed in this unit review though. Please comment. Or if you just enjoyed it, please comment, or just start a conversation down below. The more we talk, the more we learn, and the more we know from each other, and make us better players. And the better players we are, the more fun we have with the game, both for ourselves and our opponents. So let's have a chat. What do you think about the Heavy Lascannon option on the Field Ordnance Battery? I want to know. All right, so that's it for today. As always, have fun wargaming, and remember, Cadia stands.